am going to get interrupted. I already have been. These are just my first impressions. I've only done about 300 miles. I can already hear a helicopter or a plane. There's going to be people coming around, so you just have to excuse that. As I say, I'm not a proper YouTuber. I just try and do this to help people. So I've only driven the car about 300 miles. Owned it about a month now. Really waiting for the spring, at least a month or so before I can do some proper videos. I'll try and do some driving ones actually. I do need to experience the car's handling and stuff a bit more. So these are just initial ownership impressions. I do have quite a few notes, so sorry if this goes on a little bit too long and you get bored, but hopefully someone will find it useful. So what have I done to the car? When I first got it, it already had these Zoom Sport grills fitted, which are very important, as I mentioned in my previous video, to stop rocks, stones chipping away and hitting the radiator to sit behind it. You can see there. The way they get seated is there's a small kind of U-clip that hangs into the bumper, and you have to clip it in, and you're supposed to get a screwdriver and push it in. With the tightness of those holes, there's no way that could happen, and this one was just kind of moving in and out. So I got some double-sided tape, put it around the edge of the bumper strip. You can see there's a tiny bit of scratching there, but it's a cheap piece of trim, so I can replace that if I need to. And it already had some up here anyway from someone else doing something. So some double-sided tape around there, stops it flapping around, keeps it nice and secure. I've added a C-Tech charger. Some people do it through the cigarette charger in the actual main car, but I decided not to do that. So you can lift up this panel here with that bit and that bit, lift it up, and then connect the battery up, the C-Tech charger, sorry, and then just run it to here. It's really nice. It tucks away into there, doesn't cause any problems. Put the C-Tech charger in the front, leave it on the edge, put the bonnet down gently. Don't close it because it will dent the rubber seal and probably affect the waterproofness of the front. And just make sure when you do connect it up, you don't connect it to the battery terminals. There's a negative terminal on the chassis, which is denoted in the manual. So positive terminal on the battery, negative terminal on the chassis. But yeah, that's really important for me because I don't drive this every single day. I did try to add some PPF. I bought some pre-cut PPF and tried to put it down here. But there's a reason, first of all, professionals do it. It's blooming hard. As soon as you get to curves, oh, excuse me, falling over. As soon as you get to any kind of curve like this, or a curve where it dips like this, it was very, very difficult to get it right, and it looked horrendous. And when you think this is 32,000 miles, and this is dirty, by the way, so some of what you're seeing will be dirt, there's very, very little stone damage on there at all. So I've decided just to not bother with that at all. I think I mentioned before I did try to plasti dip the badges, and it looked awful as well. Not awful, but it didn't look good. You could tell it wasn't kind of a factory finish, so I wasn't happy with that. And I also bought some decals, and I'll put a picture in, that I test fitted to this side. And again, I just don't think it worked. I think if you're going to have decals on the car, it needs the big GT4 rear wing, big bumpers. It needs to be a more aggressive car in general. So for me and my taste, the decal just didn't really work. Put the front down quickly. So what I was meaning about C-Tech charger, so you literally just pop it down like that, so it's still a bit open, and that works a treat. I had the windscreen replaced. When I bought the car, I didn't know about this. There was a huge crack down the front of the windscreen here, from the top all the way down to about there. Someone said it's probably where they tried to remove a dash cam or something like that. So I've had to get the windscreen replaced. I did know about that. I had a pre-purchase inspection done, so I was aware of that, so that's all good. And I also had the only real issue on the car. You can't see it now, but there was a scuff here. Again, I'll put an image in. And I had someone come to the house and professionally repair that as well. And he works for Pagani, he works on Ferraris, he works on multi-million-pound cars, so more than happy with that. And the rest of the bumper is actually in really, really good condition, so I didn't see the point in doing the whole bumper. I will be getting the front bumper resprayed though. Again, it's a bit too dirty to show, but it's got 32,000 miles of damage on it, and there you can see that either the previous owner nudged someone or someone nudged him, and that's the result of it. It kind of looks like wave effect on the bumper. So at the end of the year, once I've done some driving in it, I'm going to get the front bumper off, resprayed, and then get it ceramic coated. And the only other issue I found, this is why you always have to clean your own cars, people. When someone was fitting a tyre, it's not chipped, they've just scraped some lacquer off. So when I get the front bumper repaired, I'm going to get that wheel sorted too. All the other wheels are absolutely perfect. Other than that, the only other plans I now really have are, I mentioned before, the ducktail wing at the back that is on the Boxster Spider. So it just comes up a little bit more and it looks superb. I'm not going to do that this year, but I am going to do that. And I want to see a black car with the in person with the smoke lights, and that might be something I do as well, but again, not this year. The only other thing really for this year, as I'm getting a dash cam installed, I have that on all my cars now. You can use it for driving footage, but also it's just nice to have that safety net in case something happens. And I'm having the whole car detailed, wheels, body, everything, and entirely ceramic coated for a really good price. And the ceramic coating I'm using, decided to use, was £250 just for the bottle for the whole car. And it's the hardest wearing ceramic coating you can have. So I've not had it before. Having seen how 30,000 miles has treated this car in terms of stone chips, for me, I don't think it's worth spending £2,000-3,000 on full front end PPF. And as I mentioned before, I had it on my Lotus and it just wasn't for me. I didn't particularly like it. It looked quite tatty quite quickly. It generated lots of holes quite quickly from stone chips, etc. So that's what I've done so far, and they are my plans for the car, other than obviously driving it. So what have I noticed? The build quality is just absolutely amazing. From even my daughter said she likes the way the door handles open. Just like that, it feels nice and solid. When you close it, it's nice and solid. The windows pop up and down when you open it. Every time you turn off the ignition, the windscreen wipers shudder to make sure, if you're in a hot climate, that constantly the rubber's being flexed. Just watch this, right? So you close the front. Oh, trying to get my key out, so bear with me. Even just the sound and how solid this sounds when you open it. It's just all is very, very well built, and it feels a very solid package, especially when I'm comparing it to my same age Lotus Evora that I had 4 years ago. The switchgear, again, similar kind of comment really. Let's just climb inside a little beast. Just the feel of using the indicators and every touch point that you'd want to be nice, it's just nice. The paddle shifters, it's a lovely sound, it's a nice metal feel. Everything is what you'd want it to be. I mean, these are hard plastics, but unless you're going to spec carbon fibre, which you can obviously do, I'm perfectly happy with that. The key touch points are just really, really nicely done. The leather seats for me are absolutely fantastic. I heard some mention of the quality of the leather varying between different seats that you choose, so I don't know if these are for high quality leather or the standard leather, but I've certainly got no issues with them. They seem to be wearing very well. They're very comfortable. This headrest is ridiculously squishy and extremely comfortable to use. The extended leather is a must. You can see it very quickly on pictures if it's got the stitching here. I've mentioned this before. I think it really elevates the car. When you look at cars without the extended leather and they've got the kind of mottled plastic, it's not pleasant. So if you are buying one of these and you don't get the extended leather, I think the interior could feel very cheap. So overall, the car just feels extremely well put together. Another really nice thing, the storage of the car. So if I just close this door, right, so you've got the glove box, you've got the cup holders that everyone knows about. Down here, you've got a pocket that opens, same on the driver's side. Another pocket down here. I know on the 911s, that's actually a pocket as well. It's not here. You've got a tiny tray there. You've got a tray in there. again, I know I'm comparing it with my Lotus, but that's the main point that I've got to compare it to. I've shown you the front already. We'll just go and have a quick look at the actual boot. Another really big space there and there. And what I do really, really like are these things. So I didn't actually know these were here. So if you look there, you just open it up and I've got rags, I've got some speed detailer, and they're deep. I mean, this is going to be what she said, but I can go all the way up beyond my wrist in there. So there's just a huge amount of storage, way more than a car this size has a right to have, to be completely honest with you. And also the storage on the inside, and you've got this little cover, so if you do have anything sensitive in the boot, you don't want people to see it or steal it, you can put it in here. There's a net here, and there's also a net on the driver's side footwell, which I'll just quickly show as well, which I didn't realise was there until my daughter pointed it out. So just down there. So loads and loads of storage. So it's really, really practical for a car of its size. And also inside the interior pockets, there's a nice material that you can see. So anything you do put in there, it's not going to rattle around. Very few cars do that. It's just a very clever, very few cars do that, and with lots of others, it's just solid plastic in there. The gadgets and the ergonomics, everything is where you'd expect it to be. Everything's pretty, I'm going to have to get back in the car again. Everything is what you'd expect. Obviously being quite tall, it's a little bit more complicated to get inside, and I do put my hand on the side of the bolster to protect it from any damage, but gear shifters, all the important buttons down here. I like having physical dials to control the radio and all the other options down there. So the HVAC stuff, do like that as well, a little Cayman thing. And everything's just really easy to use and where you'd expect it to be. I've had Alpine units in the past, again on the Lotus and on the Mark Levinson one, whatever that was, on my Lexus, and there are just endless amounts of menus which become very difficult to navigate. With this, it's very, very simple. You go forwards into a menu, you've got an options button that gives you all the options for that menu, and you go back and you use this to navigate it. Information, again, just a very quick button to get up your sat nav, nice and easy. To get up your tuning, again, really nice and easy. So overall, it's just really, really easy to use. I'm 6'1", and I was a bit worried about being able to get the steering wheel and seating and everything into the right position. So I've just got the seats that are they're the upgraded seats. They have these up here, which by the way make a massive difference. Even having not done some serious driving yet, they make a massive difference. But they're electrically movable on the back, no bolster movement, but it's very heavily padded there, and manually movable forwards and backwards with a slight upwards and down manual movement too. And I've had sciatica in a few cars. The smart car was horrendous for it. I had to buy a pillow to go down here. And when I realised that this car didn't have the a billion bajillion way adjustable seats, I was a bit nervous, but I can get an extreme, well, almost basically perfect. So I can hang my wrist just over here. I can get my legs easily under the steering wheel. So when you're turning corners, your knuckles don't hit your legs. So it's absolutely spot on from that point of view. Again, lots of people just coming out and doing stuff, so I'm going to stop here and carry on in a second. I've not had this before, this multi-function kind of rear binnacle here. So annoyingly, this car doesn't have TPMS, which I don't quite understand why it didn't. There's lots of debates around when it became legal and when it didn't. It's got the sports chrono clocks, you've got all the relevant information on there, you've got your trip computer. It's a very, very easy system to use. Again, well thought through, really basic, just nicely designed. So you have to give Porsche another thumbs up for that. Everything is just easy. I barely had to spend any time reading the manual whatsoever, and this is the one I tend to leave on. So when you're driving, you wait for the temperature to get up to about 60 plus degrees before you can do anything particularly exciting. But it's just great having that there, and a really easy to read format. And then when you've got the gears, they appear in that little box just there, so you can see what gear you're in very, very easily. The only thing that ergonomically is a bit odd is on some other sportier cars I've had, you go backwards to shift up when you're using the gear stick. And that's because typically when you're accelerating, the G-forces of accelerating pull you back into the car, so you want to be able to pull up. And then when you're braking, they push you forward, so you want to be able to go down. So it's a bit odd that it's that way around, but you know, it is what it is. That's a little bit strange for me. Other than that, from a driving experience from what I've got so far, the headlights that move with the road are absolutely brilliant. Not had that in any car. I know that's a very standard feature these days, but that's new to me in this car. So having them move as you go around the road is really nice. Also, the Bose sound system upgrade. Lots of people were saying the standard system's pants. I've had Bose in a few other cars. I'd recommend it, right? I'm not an audiophile or anything, but I think it's brilliant. I've got no issues with it whatsoever. Styling, right? So I mentioned this in my previous video, but I think it's absolutely spot on. I'm not a big fan of 986s and 987s personally, and as soon as they released this in the Boxster and Cayman format, I was just taken with it. And I remember talking to my friend who had a 997.2, right, about this as well, and we both agreed that we probably wouldn't have bought necessarily the older models, but this one is just absolutely bang on, pretty much from every angle, but the rear 3/4 angle, it's just absolutely spot on. Right, I don't know what's going on here. Weird. It just gets busy at 9 o'clock. And when you're looking in your rear view mirror and you see these big old haunches here, it's just brilliant. You've got a nice bit of design from the spoiler all the way into the light, all the way into the bumper crease down here, the bumper line. So it's just really well put together, and with the spoiler up, it actually looks really good. In the older ones where it's kind of got that flat wall spoiler, I'm not convinced it looks that good when it's up, but with this one, it looks absolutely brilliant. So to my eye, it's a great car. It does need PASM. I've mentioned this before. For the ride height, it lowers it, I think, 10 millimeters compared to stock. And for me, that's bang on. I mean, look at that ride height, absolutely spot on. See, people talk about spacers. You could put spacers on it. I'm certainly not going to put spacers on it. I think they stick out far enough into the wheel arch for me. So yes, really, really pleased with it. I think the guy said as well, these exhaust tips were an optional extra, but I'm not 100% sure. But they look good. They're a really nice size, and they really match the aggressive nature and styling of the car. I also like the wheel design. I've seen quite a few of these different wheels on Porsches, but they're so easy to clean. I've had some really complicated wheels in the past, and for me, they're just perfect. Super easy to clean, really simple, and just look great. Again, I like the interior styling as well. If I'm being really picky, if I'd spec the car, I would have done a red contrast stitch. This is a bit too plain for me. I would have done a red stripe up here, and I would have had a red dial background there, and on the sports chrono as well, just to lift the car a bit, to go with the calipers, just a bit of colour. Maybe the seat belts, not 100% sure about that because they'll probably get filthy. But yeah, it would have been nice to have a bit more colour in the car for sure. So overall, as a package, I think it's a really nice looking car. I think it's going to stand the test of time really well. It's not blocky or offensive. It's, you know, it hasn't got the fried egg headlights, or it hasn't got anything about it that's really controversial. So I think it's going to go really well. Driving impressions, again, like I said, I haven't really driven it a huge amount. All I can say is that when the car's warmed up, the Porsche exhaust system, sports exhaust, is just outrageous. Downshifts in Sports Plus and Sports just sound absolutely amazing. The rev matching, the crackles, it's just outrageous. And that gearbox, flipping heck, The Lexus gearbox changed gears in 0.2, 0.3 seconds, I think it was. I don't know how quickly this does it, but it is seamless. Absolutely seamless. Rapid and seamless. And I haven't even driven the car properly yet in anger. And it is super, super impressive. I've never known driving modes to make such a big difference. When PAS-M comes on, flipping heck, you can feel it. It really, really firms up. When you go from Sports to Sports Plus and you get the extra revs, you get the extra sound, you get the more aggressive shifts, acceleration, it's just epic. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde car, more so than I'd expected. So you can just pootle around in normal, no exhaust open, and just enjoy the car and not be particularly abusive to people, or abusive? What do I mean? Not be seen too much, not be too loud. So if you're going through a village in the morning or something like that, and then when you want to be a hooligan, you just open it all up, put Sports Plus on, put the exhaust on. It's absolutely incredible. What else did I notice? Yeah, I've already mentioned the paddle shifters. They're absolutely brilliant, really nice and tactile to use. The steering is direct, very direct, a slower rack than I'd expected, and you definitely don't get as much feedback as you did through the Lotus. You could really feel the bumps and the undulations in the road more in the Lotus, and it was definitely a quicker rack. So that was a little bit surprising. You're kind of turning the wheel a bit more than you thought you'd have to go around certain corners. But I'll experiment a bit more with that when I take the car out in anger. As you'd expect from a naturally aspirated engine, extremely smooth, a joy to rev. More than enough torque. If you just bang down a couple of gears, which this gearbox is very capable of doing very quickly, you've got plenty of torque on offer. I mean, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds with launch control, or 4.2 or something without it. If you're saying that's not fast enough, you're going to drag strips or something, because I think it's plenty fast enough personally, especially on the roads. The brake feels really good, really solid pedal actually. Again, a lot more solid than I expected. It does need a good old push to get the brakes working properly, but that's definitely not a bad thing. It's definitely better than spongier or having a huge amount of travel at the top and then suddenly you get the brake feel later, which I've had in some cars. You get a great amount of brake feel through these, which is reassuring and a lot better than I was expecting, as I say. The front and rear parking sensors are absolutely necessary. It has a huge amount of visibility, but you're very, very low down. You can't see the back at all. You can't see the front. So front and rear parking sensors for me are an absolute necessity on a car like this. You don't want to prang it. You are going to use it daily. You do take it to car parks and places where it's going to be tight. So if you're buying one of these, absolutely make sure it's got that. Overall driving package I think is going to be fantastic. I'm going to be taking this car on road trips. I'm doing just a English road trip this year, and then next year I want to do a European trip with it, and I think that's where it will really start to show just how good a car it is from its overall usability, fun when you want it to be, storage capability of baggage, and an absolute hoot when you want it to be as well. So we will see how that goes. Negatives: it's blooming loud inside the cabin. My mate's 911, my dad's 997, Boxster. Sorry, 968, 968, I think it is. Boxster were also quite loud, and it's a mixture of extremely wide tyres. I think it's just extremely wide tyres actually, but it's noisier than you would like it to be. And also the Porsche exhaust, when left in normal mode and it gets into 7th gear, and you're cruising at 70-ish, which is where you want to be, it does drone a bit. When it's kind of at 2,000, 3,000 revs or whatever it is, you do get a bit of cabin drone, which is not ideal. So sometimes it's easier just to stick it in manual and cruise in 6th. So yeah, the interior cabin noise is more than I expected, quite a bit more than I expected actually. Also when cleaning the brakes, they bind. If you leave the water and put the car away, leave the water on the brakes, the discs and pads will just bind together. And when you try and get the car out the next day, I mean, when I say bind, they seriously stick, and you've got to give it a fair bit of welly to get out. So you do have to take the car out for a drive to dry those off, get a little bit of heat into them, which is annoying because when you just wash the car, the last thing you want to do is take it out and get it flipping dirty again. But sadly, it is a bit of a necessity. I am going to buy a blower to get the water off and see if that makes a difference, because I don't always want to have to take it for a drive. But yeah, it happened on my Lotus as well. What I just forgot about it, and when it did happen on this, caught me off a little bit, caught me off guard. Too many things are options, another massive negative. I mean, not having auto dipping rear view mirrors, auto dimming rear view mirrors, having to have climate control in a car like this as an option, it's just daft. And I get it, it's their business model, but it makes it very difficult when you're shopping for these. And when you do find one that's right, you do have to jump on it, because if you miss it, you could be waiting months for another similar car spec to come up. I've mentioned the contrast stitching. The person who owned this car originally was a lawyer. Maybe they were boring, don't know. But yeah, they could have put some colour into there, would have been nice. Almost there, bear with me. Last page, conclusions. So far, I'm absolutely blown away with it as a package, as an overall car. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to drive it properly. There'll definitely be more videos coming. Probably some driving videos, definitely some exhaust clip videos. And obviously I need to understand exactly what it's like to drive, to feed back to people. What expectations are. I've got a family of 3. We've got a family car in this, so it will get used when I go to work. It already gets used to pick my daughter up from school. It'll get a good amount of use, so I'll be able to give some really good feedback around practicality of the car. I have been into a multi-storey car park yesterday. I wasn't sure if it would scrape on the bottom. It has got fairly steep ramps. It didn't, so I'm really pleased it passed that test. So yeah, I'll give more a wider, better overview when I've done more miles and especially done the road trip this year. But it looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic. The build quality is amazing. It's an absolute pleasure to drive. I can't wait to go on track. I'm definitely going to take it on track. So I think that's probably it. If you're thinking about it, I would go for it. Obviously, I did. The prices seem to be all over the place. I've been very open about this. I got this for 37,000 private sale. Got pre-purchase inspection done to make me feel better. Someone just listed a very similar one with only 10,000 fewer miles, far less spec, so not similar, sorry, same age, a Boxster, far less spec, 10,000 fewer miles for 43 grand. So I think I've probably done pretty well with this, to be honest with you. The only ones I can find on Auto Trader are 43 and 45 and 47,000. And again, they're missing a few options on this. So buy carefully, ideally buy private. Do your due diligence, get the HPI checks done. That car vertical that I've seen mentioned on lots of people's YouTube's videos, I did use that. Like I say, you got the pre-purchase inspection. Just be sensible and just wait for the right car to come along. I'm absolutely ecstatic to own it. I am extremely excited to drive it more and just share the ownership experience with people on here. And if you have any questions, please just let me know and I'll try and answer them. Or if there's anything you'd like to see or understand about the car, I'll try and do that as well. So this will be the last video for a bit, I'd imagine. I need to drive it, so I reckon it'll be a little while until I put something else worthy of posting up. But any questions in the meantime, let me know.